Disclaimer. To the Pharisees and Karens out there.
How dare you!
All guests on this show do not reflect the opinions of the host. The purpose of this show is to have interesting conversations, stretch our minds, and grow.
Not what we want!
If you are looking for an echo chamber, viewer and listener discretion
is advised.
You talk about extreme.
What is happening and what is up? Hold out your glass, because we're about to fill it up.
Torches high.
Look at it from a different perspective.
Hey guys, what is happening and what is up? Hold out your glass, baby, because you know what time it is. We about to fill it up. Welcome to the Prometheus Lens Podcast, the place where the conversations are always enlightening. I'm your host, Doc Brown, and here we like to use the allegory of the Prometheus Lens to take a second look at everything. Hey, if you're new to the channel, welcome to the hero's journey. Be sure and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Down below, we'll have our banner with all of our social medias at their various outlets. Be sure and check those out. That would be much, much appreciated. Well, guys, I got a real good show lined up for you. This is a podcasting brother from another mother. We just spent some time together in the trenches out in Gatlinburg at the Bigfoot conference, man. We had such a good time, and he allowed me to hang out at his booth and sell a couple books. And I've been on his show once, but this is the first of many on my show. I'd like to welcome to the Prometheus Lens, Bennett from Broadcasting Seeds. How you doing, brother?
Great, man. Thanks for having me on. That was a lot of fun at the Smoky Mountain Bigfoot conference. First time we'd met, like you were on my show. God, it's been a while, man.
It was around January or February. It was right when I released the book.
And it was really good to meet you in person. So,
yeah, definitely, man.
And a bunch of the other guys, Harley, Owens. There was so many.
Even Kevin from Where the Weird Ones Are. He came all the way down from Maryland,
Maine.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah, wow. I came from New York. I mean, it was a lot of fun though. So it was so good to meet you in person. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I had a real good time hanging out with you, man.
Yeah.
But, well, for those, man, that are not familiar with you or your show or what you do, just kind of give us a feel of who the Bennett man is, what your show's about, what kind of got you into this space. Just give us a little bit of a feel for those that don't know about you, brother.
All right. I'm Bennett Tanton. I am a father of 4 daughters. I'm going to give it the whole thing. Father of 4 daughters. I'm married to the love of my life. We've been married 21 years. And I live in upstate New York. And I have a podcast called Broadcasting Seeds. I've been in the podcast game for since 2014. So about 11 years. Had some other podcasts, as most of us have, right? But I landed in this, space. And I like to call it the high strangeness space because the show Broadcasting Seeds covers all the genre, right? It's everything from cryptids to even a little true crime sprinkled in here. But it started with Bigfoot. I've had some experiences, some sightings and or face-to-face experiences. That's what really got me. I've always been curious. Really I was that kid. I'd be in the library because I'm older, Gen X kid. Didn't have the internet. So I'd be in the library finding the Bigfoot books, or I was really obsessed with Loch Ness too. Like I think a lot of our generation was, because that's what there was really, right? Bigfoot, Loch Ness. But Broadcasting Seeds, easy enough to find, just broadcastingseeds.com. I'm on every, platform that you could dream up, probably, right? Like all of us are. And I just love talking about this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, for real. Me too, man.
That's what I tell a lot of people, because a lot of people have the idea, of, hey, man, that's easy enough. You just talk with people. I want to do a podcast. I want to have my own podcast.
Yeah.
And then they get into it, man, and 90% of them don't make it past 6 months, let alone a year, because they don't realize all the time you spend studying, getting guests, all the money you spend on the cameras and software to edit all this stuff. And
right.
If it's not something that you love to do, you will burn out very, very fast.
For sure. And that's what's happened with other podcasts. I mean, I was in a different space too with those. It was, first podcast I ever did was very veteran centric. I'm a military veteran, and that one was Marine centered podcast. And it's like I don't know. It's not like we ran out of content, but and also I had multiple guests. This is something else. And I'm sure the people that have, not multiple guests, multiple hosts, the shows that have multiple hosts, that's another layer of,
difficulty
crap you got to go through, right? Because you got to jimmy around with everyone's schedule and all that fun stuff. So we have friends that deal with that currently right now. But you make it happen. But then after about 3 or 4 years of that, it was just like, so started another veteran, again, glad for punishment, another veteran podcast with another buddy of mine. And that one went a lot better. We actually ended up creating a podcast network, and then we ended up, effectively selling that. I mean, we didn't make anything, right? But it is what it is. But it was a lot of fun. But now it's the broadcasting seeds, man. And I just love the people in this space. Some of them, let's be honest, they're a little challenging. That's right.
Yeah.
But many of them are just good people. And it's really centered me in like the Christian space a little bit, because I didn't realize even though I would consider myself a Christian before all this, I didn't realize the overlap and that it's all connected, in my opinion. So that's been something that's been crazy.
Yeah, 100%, man. Well, another thing that you had talked to me about over that weekend at the conference is that you're even affiliated and like help produce a magazine.
Yeah. Strange Knocks magazine, which literally, here's a copy. There's a whole bunch of writers and some people have heard of, like Brian King Sharp. He writes, and he's written an article in here, and there's just a whole bunch of people, but it literally talks about, it's not just cryptids or paranormal. It's a little bit of everything. Okay. And it's with a friend of mine, Gwen Purcell is her name, and she runs a website called God Knockers, and Bigfoot Knockers.
Yeah.
But she happens to be female. But either way, that's a lot of fun. And it's a quarterly magazine, and we just kind of solicit out there. This next issue will be a Halloween issue, because it'll come out in October. And so most of the stuff in that one will be, spooky Halloween in nature. But there's just a lot of irons in the fire, man.
Oh yeah.
It's just another thing to do too, right? So
yeah,
I try to help
universal.
I try to help her as much as I can. So
yeah, I think it's a universal thing. It's like most of us podcasters are big ADHDers. So we all have to have, multiple balls to juggle. That way we feel like we're doing something and entertained.
Consistently. You wish that you could just, and see, that was the thing when I started this whole thing, is I really wanted to focus on cryptids. Just can't do it though. Once you start digging into it all, it's all connected, and you start, next thing you know, you're interviewing people about the connection to UFOs or UAPs or whatever they're called now. Right. And then you get folks on like Gary Wayne, and you start pulling the Bible in, and guys like you pulling the Bible. And I'm just like, man, I cannot just do cryptids. So, definitely fun, but it's a lot of research, so much research, which I love to do, but it's a lot of work. Especially when you got some good guests, you're just like, and then you try to do diverse, guests too. So yeah, man, it's
definitely a labor of love. So
it is.
If you guys consume content, don't just assume that the creators you're watching know that you love the show or appreciate the show. Be sure you voice and tell us down in the comments, or send us a nice little email every once in a while. That's fuel for the fire, guys. And we're human.
Like,
we get burned out from times.
Like, subscribe, and what's the other one?
Like, comment, subscribe.
Yeah. So,
well, you had mentioned earlier, Bennett, that you had some Bigfoot experiences, and that was kind of like your gateway drug into the strange and paranormal. I'd love to hear those if you're willing to tell them.
Yeah, man. So the first one, I grew up in Illinois, in a little farm town in the middle north central area of Illinois. And I was a Boy Scout. So we had this camp that we always went to, and we'd go to it all the time. Not like every weekend, but during the summer we camped there a lot, as a Boy Scout troop. And, what was so cool about it is we had free reign, right? Now, one of the things I want to bring up first is there were, I guess you could say, Indian, like, local legends of Sasquatch-like creatures already that we had known about, right? And if I'm not mistaken, but I've tried to do research on this, and it's really hard. So I like bringing this up on other people's podcasts, because people that might know, this was McLean County, Illinois, and the name of the camp was Camp Heffernan, but it's a little, it's on Lake Bloomington, not that far from Bloomington Normal, Illinois. And if there's in the middle of this campground, there was like a parade deck, I guess is what you could call it, like a parade field, like just a big open field surrounded by trees. And I remember there being like a stump in the very middle of that. Now, this is one of those times when you're like, am I crazy? Do I really remember it this way? Right? Because I haven't really been able to get a hold of anybody else. I know one of the kids that I was with passed away. And then the other one I've just lost track of. I don't remember, I was 11. But so there was a stump in the middle of this parade deck, and it was cut like a seat. Right? And I am like 90% sure there was a plaque on it that said something about it in a tale that basically there was a tribe that was there that would, like, in essence, sacrifice people to this big hairy man, wild man, Sasquatch, whatever you want to call it. So that's just prefacing this whole thing. This
was like an Indian legend, you said?
Yes, I'm pretty sure. I really wish I could track this down, or somebody could help me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But nobody has so far. I've been telling the story for about a year. But with that being said, one of the glories of this place is we had like free reign. So as the different squads in the Boy Scout troop, we would get to pick where we wanted to camp. The leaders and stuff would always stay in these cabins that were, right off of the central area of the camp. But my squad, we always chose this pine forest just because it was like, you know, how it gets with the needles, and it was just awesome. Plus, I love the sound of, I guess you could call it whispering pines, right? The wind blowing through those pines. There's a distinctive sound to it. And it was just calming, and I could sleep really well there. And it was awesome. Well, one evening, I mean, we had been there so many times over, you know, about a 2 or 3 year period. We were really comfortable with it, but there's this area in between the pine forest. There's like a road that goes down to the lake. And there's these hedgerows on either side of it, right? Or at least there was then. I don't know what it looks like now, because it's not even called the same thing anymore. Somebody else owns it. But there was these hedgerows that were about 10 feet tall, you know, like think like World War II movies with the French and in France with the giant hedgerows that like tanks would bust through, and you'd see soldiers crawling underneath them. Well, there was this on either side of this road that went down to the lake. And there's a little, like a drainage ditch before you hit, that was about 10 feet off of the first hedgerow. And we, being boys, full of energy, but still, you know, somehow we're still lazy, right? We didn't want to walk or run all the way around the hedgerow. So we would climb under them, crawl under them, to then run across that field and get to where they always cooked. And we were late for dinner. Sun was going down. And we are heading west right into the sun. And we, hit that drainage ditch. And at that point it had rained, the day prior. So there was still a little runoff, and we had to jump across it. And as soon as I was in the lead, and as soon as I did that, the first thing I remember is the smell hitting me. And it was like a wet dog. You've heard this a million times, like literally like a wet dog and like decomp. It was just awful smell. And I say decomp, but it's more like a swamp, right? With that bacterial sludge. If you were to walk around in a swamp, you get that. It's just nasty, mixed with like wet dog, right? And I was like, whoa. And then right as that happened, the hedgerow in front of us like exploded. It's the best way that I can describe it. It exploded. Whoa. And there was this just roar, / scream / you could even feel it. It was it was just that powerful. And, I remember looking up at what it just like, oh my God, like scared out of my mind. And I remember seeing the hedgerow like come apart, right? And it came apart from the top. So this thing had to be about 8 feet tall. I mean, just monstrous, and bent that hedgerow back. And I could distinctly see, shoulders and a head. It was like one thing. There wasn't like a head with a neck. It was just one, you know, and it was
one big silhouette.
Yeah. And it was just that yell, that scream. Then the two kids that were with me, let out a scream, obviously. And I look over at them, and they're running down the hedgerow. And I was like, oh, I'm going too. Followed them. And I can't remember of anything beyond that, like it didn't chase us. It didn't follow us. I don't remember footfalls or anything like that. And us running to the to the cabin where the rest of the troop was at, just freaking out. And the one kid ended up going home. They ended up calling his parents because he's like, nope, not doing this.
If you're someone who still thinks the wild has secrets, who feels stories woven into the wind, this brand's going to hit home. The Sasquatch makes Squatch-approved gear. I don't mean that lightly. This stuff is functional, yes, but it's laced with legend. It's for people who believe in what's out there and what it brings out of them. They're hats, beanies, stickers. They're designed by folks who live and breathe the myth. No gimmicks, just real outdoor gear with soul. Go to thesoulsquatch.com and find something made for fellow believers, wanderers, or anyone who still listens when the woods go quiet.
And he was visibly, and I remember he actually quit Boy Scouts. Like, he was done. Which I don't know why. Like, it did scare me, but it wasn't. It was almost like this surreal, like, dream state is how I feel about it now. That's why I say I remember it very clearly, but it's one of those things. It's got to be like the trauma response or something where you're just like, is that even real? You know? And this is something that happens with Bigfoot encounters. People don't even talk about them for years and years and years and years, right? I remember talking to the other kid about it. He acknowledged that it happened, but he wouldn't talk about it. He's like, I don't know what that was, man. I don't know what happened that day, you know? And
because you got the internal dialogue too. You know, did I really see that? Am I crazy? If I really did see it and I tell people, then I'm really going to be looked at like I'm crazy. And it reminds me of the L.A. Marzulli's first encounter with a UFO. You ever heard that story?
Yeah. Oh my God. Yes.
He was at a camp and him and a couple of his buddies were out in the woods and they seen a UFO. All three of them seen it, acknowledged it, freaked out and run away. And they had supper that night and they were sitting at the table and L.A. was like, hey guys, tell them about what we seen in the woods, you know, and all this stuff. He said, and they were like, what are you talking about? He said, they acted like they didn't remember it. He said, so I don't know if they just were denying it and didn't want to admit it, or if they had like UFO brain fog and it was kind of like wiped from their memory. So, but either way, he said, I look like a fool at the table.
Yeah. I do. So the way I know it happened for sure is that the other kid acknowledged that it happened for sure. But wouldn't talk about it. Unfortunately, he died a couple years later in a car accident. You know, like teenage high school kid. You know, ran off the road, crashed his car into a creek. You know, tragic, right? So that story kind of dies with him. You know, other than me and other than the other kid, who I've never seen since. So the one thing that I just don't understand how they couldn't have heard it either is there was other boys that were behind us, but farther back, and none of them acknowledged hearing anything like that roar. And I don't know how they couldn't, but they didn't, allegedly. So yeah. So that's my first run-in with Bigfoot. And again,
you were 11, is that right?
I was 11. Yeah. Yeah. And, that kind of, you know, but it never scared me out of the woods. Which I always wonder about that. Like, cause I went back and slept in my tent. Like we walked past that spot kind of, and there wasn't really any signs of crazy there, but there you could see where the hedgerows had been damaged, but it wasn't anything like insane. There was leaves all over the ground and stuff, but there was no footprints. There was no other sign, right, than leaves and stuff on the ground, and probably our poop. Because I'll tell you, man, it was
a string
insane.
of piss down the hedgerow.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah. And then, I had another similar episode in the Marines. It was almost identical in Alaska.
Oh, wow.
And me and another guy saw that too. But again, this is one of those crazy things. Him and I acknowledged that it happened at one point, but then never talked about it again. And he passed away in 1997. So I don't know. This one died with me too. That one, it's just me. Very similar story. Patrolling, doing, we were really training to do, I had told you about my background in the military before, and we were training in Alaska to do, like a drug interdiction mission. And we had an altercation with a moose earlier in the day that was so scary. It was a female moose with a calf, who was tromping through high grass, and we didn't see her. Well, we didn't know there was a calf initially. And as soon as she started bluff charging us, and man, I'll tell you what, they're big. Freaking moose are gigantic. So we were already kind of like spent already in the day, dealing with that. We had also seen, a bear through a spotting scope. Really wasn't a threat to us at that point, cause it was across, a valley, but you're out there, bears, mooses. Oh my,
yeah, that's the true wilderness out there.
It is for sure. And we were in the national forest, outside Anchorage, doing this stuff. And it's one of those times, it was during the summer. So it was light the night before we were out there, we were playing volleyball at like 11 o'clock at night. It was pretty cool. So we were just walking along after the incident with the moose, and this was a few hours later, but we were getting ready to try and find a spot to just like bed down for the night. And we were walking, and him and I stopped and smelled. He actually smelled it first. He was like, "Oh my God, what is that smell?" And I thought, because it did smell, this one smelled more like decomp than the other one. So we thought it was something dead in front of us. But then we took another 2 or 3 steps, and it literally rose out of like this clump of, like, it wasn't alders, but it was something like that. It was like it was a bush. It rose up right behind it. And again, we were walking into the sun, silhouetted, but this you could see from like here up. So you could kind of see it put its, it was like one arm went up. So you could see daylight under here too. And it was kind of like, see, I really thought about this, and I remember distinctly seeing like the shadow of like you would like an orangutan had the long hair under the arms, right? Not in the armpit, but under the arms. And again, just neck like this big around, and then the head. And it wasn't necessarily a conical head, but it was just a giant head. And the roar, it let out the same roar. And this one might have been even a little bigger than the other one, that I had encountered. 'Cause I think we estimated it to be 8.5, 9 foot. And it roared. We had fully loaded weapons. This is the other thing that was so weird. And neither of us pulled the trigger. I didn't feel compelled to pull it. I don't know why.
Petrified.
Probably. I mean, I was, but he didn't pull the trigger either. And then, actually, another guy behind us, cause we were staggered pretty decent. And we were coming, the rest of the team was kind of down like off of a ridge a little bit. We were coming up a flat spot. So one other guy had just crested the ridge and he could hear it as well. And he came running. And when he came running, that's when it took off. And it sounded like a freight train going through I mean, I say, people are like, oh, it could have been a bear. I guess, but I don't think so, man. No, the thing had arms. No, it was not.
Now, what kind of distance are we talking about? How far away was it?
Within 20 feet.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I mean, I'm telling you, the first incident was within like 10, 12. I think back and I can literally feel, it's almost like I can feel the breath coming off. I don't distinctly remember smell or anything because it was already pungent. But the same thing with this one's probably about 20 feet. And it was just, it was just that sheer feeling of it could reach right out and just snap us like twigs. Like there was nothing you could do. And I had an M16 and a M204 grenade launcher, M203 grenade launcher under there. And I didn't even have the inkling to pull the trigger, but it wouldn't have done much, I don't think.
Yeah.
It would have just
point,
pissed
it's like
him off.
fight or flight, and it's just stay still. Maybe it'll
Holy
walk
shit,
away.
yeah, it was kind of like one of those. Yeah, it was fight, flight, or freeze, and we definitely froze. It was just, whew, what the hell? And then that third guy came running up, and that's what set it off, and it ran. Yeah, man.
And it's
scary.
It's wild too how you described the sound of it running away. It was like a freight train.
It's just so. It was just, I mean, literally just crashing and snapping trees. I actually have, I wish I had the pictures. We took pictures of the trees broken. And some of these trees were probably 10 inches around, right? Just pushed over. And of course that happens in other sightings as well. Like they can just snap these trees and it's just unfreaking believable. But of course those pictures were lost. That's a whole nother story. A storage area that had failed to pay rent on, and they somebody's got them. Somebody's got those pictures, but it's not me.
Because I interviewed a guy that was a local guy from down here in Dandridge, and his name was Red, but he gave us a story. I actually did an interview show with him. We called it Bigfoot Stole My Fishing Hole. And his story is that he was out fishing and he liked to night fish. And there was this little cove. It was his secret, fishing hole. He said, I like to fish at night. He said, it's not as hot. You don't have as many boats and people out. He said, so I was out there, he said, like 2:00 in the morning. And he said that he kept hearing like rocks being thrown at his boat. He said it started off just like small ones. He said, but they started getting bigger. He said, they got really close to my boat. He said, I thought it was kids up on the ridge in that cove throwing rocks down at my boat. He said, so I just started yelling up at the ridge, you little bastards, you better quit throwing crap at my boat. And he said, and then he said it stopped for a little bit. He said, but then all of a sudden, he said, I just heard badoosh. He said, it sounded like a boulder as big as a car. And he said, and I turned and looked. He said, and shined my floodlight over to where I heard it. He said, there wasn't a ripple one in the water. And he said, and about that time, he said, I was like, okay, I'm getting the hell out of here. He said, I started my boat. He said, and I started to go. He said, so I'm on the water, this motor roaring right by my head. He said, then I hear something running around the ridgeline toward me and following the boat. He said, it sounded like a Mack truck. He said, it took maybe 8 to 10 steps. He said, I heard it, boom, boom, boom. He said, it then covered the whole length of the cove.
Oh my gosh. Oof.
Yeah, he said, I never seen it. He said, but I heard it.
But you heard it. Wow. Yeah. It's one of those things, man. I look now and, Eastern Tennessee is pretty, active, and our buddy Harley can attest, and you guys all can from Operation Smoke. There's some stuff going on in East Tennessee, right? But if you look, and I love to give this guy props because he's got one of the best websites I've ever seen when it comes to cryptid research, is the Bigfoot Mapping Project. And if you look at the Bigfoot Mapping Project, and like right now, it's the number one areas actually where you're getting the most reports is Western Pennsylvania. I don't know what it is. And didn't you talk to Tim about some of that stuff, Tim Constantine, about the Alleghenies and giants and or things like that around Pittsburgh? So, right.
The Allegheny or Allegheny, how you pronounce it,
right.
It means giants.
Yes.
So you got the Allegheny River. That was the Allegheny River. It was the river of the giants.
Right. So right outside Pittsburgh, of all places, right, there's just a hotbed of activity for Bigfoot, and also eastern Ohio. Well, I do a lot of Bigfoot research. One of our research areas is the Allegheny National Forest in Pennsylvania. And so we've had multiple, and that includes Gwen, the strange knocks. We've had multiple incidents there where I haven't had a Class A sighting there, but I've definitely had Class B on two separate occasions. We had a scream / roar from a ridge where right off our campsite one night, and it was just unbelievable. There's no way of, I've heard mountain lions scream, and there's so often you try to debunk this stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And it could have been an owl. Yeah, maybe. But the thing is, I've never heard an owl that loud, right? I mean, just insane. And it was so loud that we could feel it, right? And then it was almost like it tried to mimic an owl at the end to like throw us off or something. So that was a pretty intense thing. But there's an other thing there that people call Pennsylvania's Little Bigfoot, and it's actually called an albatwitch. Albatwitch, I think is how you pronounce it. Or they call him like an apple snatcher, right? But it's like a little Bigfoot. And there is a picture that it's very contested and whatnot, but it's the oh my gosh, why did it just flee from my brain? I gotta look it up. It was a famous trail cam picture.
It makes you wonder if it was just like a juvenile.
Yeah, maybe. But this is one of those things, like they're described apple snitches, about 4 feet tall, hairy, but they're slender. And they'll climb trees, which a lot of people say juvenile Sasquatches do as well, right? Mm-hmm. Stealing apples, but they've had notable encounters for years. What is the name of that? People that know are probably yelling. Goodness. Sorry.
No, you're good. And one of the things that you had mentioned earlier, it brought up some stuff in my mind, how that camp that you was at 11-year-old boy, how you said there was that plate with the Indian legend about how they would, sacrifice to this thing. Well, you have that similar story in Afghanistan, because there was a guy that came forward and said that that's what his people and tribe did. That he remembers his grandma and stuff painting these goats and stuff red, and then taking them out and tying them up and leaving them.
He's like,
why are we leaving?
Did you interview him?
No, I hadn't.
Oh, but he told the story about his grandmother, right?
Yeah.
Who was that on? I heard that.
He's been on a few shows. I can't remember all of them he's been on because it's been a while. But I think he went on L.A. Marzulli's once.
Yeah, maybe.
But it was but basically they were sacrificing to this Sasquatch, this hairy giant. And he said that it was something that the people did as far back as they could remember. And they said that this thing used to raid their village and steal their animals and cause a bunch of havoc. So they just started doing that, and he left them alone.
Right.
And this is the same area where you have that encounter of the Nephilim giant covered in red hair. Yeah, the Kandahar giant. Hey guys, it's no secret that every single day your dollar loses its value. If a man invested $1,000 in silver in the 60s, today that same $1,000 would have magically turned into almost $30,000. Silver and gold only continues to increase in value. If you have a 401k or money sitting in savings, that is just a number in a computer system that is one EMP or hack away from being deleted forever. I've recently teamed up with Cornerstone Assets and Metals and started investing in gold and silver myself. And I highly encourage the listeners, if you have money in savings just sitting there, invest it in hard, tangible assets. The same thing with your 401ks. Take a 20 to 30% cut of that 401k, that number in a computer system, and invest into hard, tangible assets that is proven to only increase in value. Be sure to check out the link in the description or the number on the screen, and be sure and tell them that Doc Brown from Prometheus Lens sent you. Torch is high, guys. So, I mean, I think
it's all related for sure. Well, I mean, we have plenty of stories here of even Indians in the United States of red-haired giants that were fighting full-blown wars with tribes. You know, I've done an episode on a couple. So what I was talking about, it's called the Jacob's creature. And, you know, some people will say that it's like a bear with mange, and there's all kinds of different things, but it's definitely weird. I'm not saying it's not. I'm not saying that it is one of these apple snitchers or whatever you want to call them. But, yeah, it's a pretty good picture of something, right? That's sort of ape-like. And with that being said, I took my buddy, we went out on it one night and did a bunch of different, you know, we were those idiots howling and knocking in the woods, which I don't like doing anymore. I don't really like doing it at all. I kind of look at it as I like to camp. Like I'll go out during the day and like look at stuff, but then at night I like to stay back at the camp. And, you know, I find that if I do that, usually the third night we'll start getting activity. I don't know why that is, but we had done something different this time and went to a different site and, you know, walked around a little bit and then sat still, and really were watching and listening, and some more than one thing, came, it wasn't too close, but I'd say it was within 100 feet or so, like on the edge of the wood line. And the next thing we know, we're listening and we had done a little whoop, and one of my buddies does a really good Sasquatch call, and he called out, and the next thing you hear is literally, it sounded like chimpanzees fighting in the woods in western Pennsylvania, you know? And we were trying to think, was it owls or was it whatever? But it wasn't. It just didn't sound that way. But of course it could have been, right? You never know. But here's the thing. we were recording. We have one of the things that we have is very good audio equipment. This group of us, and we had this audio recorder on the top of my vehicle, which was sitting, couldn't have been more than 30 to 40 feet from them, whatever we were hearing, because it was about half the distance from where we were sitting to them. Right. And when we listened back, because we're like, holy shit, we got this on audio. When we listened back, there was about a 4-minute gap of audio that was just blank. And it was during that time. And how do you explain that? I can't, because we have before it and we have after it, right? And you can hear us talking, and you get the overlap of the ambient noise of the forest, but all of a sudden it's blank. There's nothing. There's no audio at all for about 4 minutes. So that's the type of stuff that drives me insane, with this research on, well, it makes me go to the supernatural side of things, right?
Yeah,
makes
the spiritual side.
Makes me go more to the woo, is like, I've also had another incident where I was at we call Broken Bridge Research Area, which is my buddy's land. He has about 95 acres in upstate New York, in what's called the Tug Hill Plateau, which is a very wild area of New York State. It's in what you would call the Adirondack foothills, right? So it's perfect Sasquatch habitat. He's got a trout stream that runs through his property. He's got deer all over his property. There is so he's got 95 acres. There's 50 plus acres on one side of his property that is farm. There is about 100 acres on the other side. Then there's a road, or it's about 40 acres. Then there's a road that's got, he's got acres, hundreds of acres around him. That's it. It's just woods. So two separate things we've had 3 separate things happen there that are very telling. One of which is I went out and stayed. We have a campsite that we built out there, where there's been incidents where things have messed with our tents at night. So we decided to put up this fence around our campsite to just keep whatever it is at bay enough, right? Maybe, or at least we can hear it. If it decides to come through the fence or over it or whatever, just to keep, because, nobody wants to lose sleep at night. I mean, yes, we're doing this, right? But at the end of the day, it freaks you out.
Yeah.
Period. So, one night I decided I was going to camp alone out there, which I don't recommend in areas where that there's Sasquatch activity. For me, I got the willies really bad. And I'm that guy that'll walk around in the woods all night. I'm not afraid of a lot, but damn, that night I was going to set up a camera trap, because I had this brand new, awesome, which I had used it before, but I'm like, I have a thermal camera and I'm going to catch this thing on thermal, because I'm going to not bait it in, but kind of like bait it in.
Yeah, that's what we did.
But what I do is I use cameras to funnel it to where I want. I have trail cams and I have other static cameras, all infrared. And I have them covering all of that campsite, except for one way up from the creek, up from the stream, that comes to a spot that's closest to our tent, like the tent that I've got set up there, right? And it leaves about an 8-foot gap that it could come right up to the fence, right? And not be on camera. Because I'm telling you, I use cameras to deter them from messing with my tent and now I have a rooftop tent, but still, I've never had issues since I started using trail cams as a deterrent at night, right? But anyway, so I had this spot about 8 feet uncovered by camera. I stayed up. It was about so I have 2 cell phones, 2 different iPhones that I had fully charged, because I had the power bank that you saw, which I have, right? I had both these phones 100% charged. And, the thermal clicks right into the power port, and you just view. And once you turn it on, it pops right on, right? So I was waiting. I had my tent. What I have is a blacked out tent, and I bought this tent just for this reason. If you're outside the tent, with your naked eye, you cannot see any light. Yeah, I could have a light on inside and you can't see in there because it's a blackout tent. So I had this one little part of which I didn't have any lights on or anything, but I'm just saying there's no way either way. I had the screen zipped down just enough so I could I could see the spot, and I could just pop this up when I wanted to video in thermal. I heard something walking up, bipedal, not a coyote, because we have plenty of those. There are the occasional bear in that area here and there, but it was not. It was definitely bipedal. And it came right up to the fence, right where I wanted it to. I heard it stop, and I heard it put its hands on the fence. I pulled up and my heart was just, it could probably hear my heart at that time, just pounding out of my chest. And I held up the camera with the thermal. I lit it up. As soon as I held it up, the thing went dead, completely dead. Not, it just stopped working. No, it sucked the battery dry. I then did like a magazine reload, grabbed the other one, put the thermal in it, powered up. It powered up. I brought it up, sucked it dry. What?
Man. Did you see it though with your naked eye?
No, I couldn't. It was so dark that night. I could not. And usually we'll have some sort of illumination, but there was zero. I think the illumination was at like 3% that night. And it's one of those nights I wish I had my night vision. Of course, I didn't have the night vision with me. I had the thermal. But it's one of those things that this is why we don't have pictures of this creature, right? Because
and I can attest on our trip, I had my Sony, and I have 3 batteries, and I had them all fully charged when I went. And we went out in the woods, and I maybe had an hour of record time on it, and that battery can go, 6-8 hours or more. And about an hour into it, man, while we were setting up that bait trap, my battery went dead. And I was like, damn it. So I had my other batteries in my pocket. So I was like, let me change batteries. And I changed batteries, pulled out the other one. It came on, and then boom, died.
Yeah.
I'm like, I know all 3 of these was fully charged.
Yep.
And I pulled out the other one, and I had like 70% on it. And that got us through the rest of the night, but it killed 2 batteries in just an hour.
And I'm telling you, I don't know what that is, but I mean, I've had GoPro batteries die. I mean, Scott Carpenter used to talk about this all the time. And that's to me, one of the most respected, I look at him and his work as a mentor, to me, because I do the backward camera stuff, and I have a different backward camera. I don't use a GoPro, and I don't use it, but I have these awesome little, they're like a 1080p 30 frame per second clip-on camera that do amazing, and I used to use them. One of the companies I had for a while, I was a process server. So I always had one of these cameras recording stuff, and it's clear as day, man. They're fantastic camera to do what I was trying to do with, and, saved me in court a couple times, like, yes, This is here it is, all on film, right? Clear as day. I don't understand why the cops don't have these things, because their chest cams or whatever, they suck. I don't understand how they don't have and I bought this camera. I have 3 of them. And my buddy has them too now because they're so good. You just clip them on. They cost like $20 on Amazon. But anyway, that's what I have on my back, like when I'm walking through the woods. And I've had those batteries go dead too. And they'll record for hours and hours. Same thing, just dead. And GoPro batteries go dead as well. That are brand new batteries. So,
and I can't help but think of all the, the supernatural, the ghost stuff you hear about, because how many times do you hear stories about, these ghosts and stuff draining batteries and blowing light bulbs, and basically like they're like energy leeches. When they try to manifest they have to pull all this energy from wherever they can get it to manifest.
Yeah. So I don't know what that is and how it intertwines, but this is not a phenomenon that is just happening to me or to you. And I'm not positive what the heck that is, but it gives credence to a lot of this stuff, that the supernatural side of this, paranormal side of this, whatever you want to call it, was Sasquatch and Bigfoot. It blows my mind that people get, I know we've talked about this in the past. I know how people get, the flesh and blood and or the woo, stuff. And I don't want to get political about it. I want to be friends with everybody because everybody does great research. I mean, you know what I'm saying, but people do good research. And I look at it as we all have our part in this. I'm not mad at people that don't believe what I believe, and I'm not, I would hope that they're not mad at what I believe, because I think we need to be, we're talking about, regardless, you're talking about a bipedal hairy ape, whether it's supernatural, whether it's Nephilim, whether it's Eliud, or you pick a word to call it, right? Or it's just a Gigantopithecus, right? Regardless, or relic hominid, who knows? But whatever it is, we're getting to a point where we're actually going to fight over this crazy being and what, it doesn't, come on. It's a very bipedal ape walking through the woods in North America and across the world. And we're going to argue about what it is. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
That's ego.
That's
so all ego. That is ego.
Which I also know there's financial incentive for a lot of these folks to maintain their paradigm, right? And I get it. I understand. But let's have a side conversation. I won't even talk to, you know what I mean? I won't tell anybody. Seriously. What do you really think? Because at this point, man, I don't see personally how I can think it's just a bipedal ape. I've had too many instances where it was not just that. So,
yeah, they got intelligence, man. Obviously, and I'm like I've said before. I'm not a this or that guy. I'm a this and that guy.
Yeah.
So, I think potentially this is what the ancients would have just called a feral giant.
Yeah.
And so is there some flesh and blood remnants still left? I think it's a high possibility.
Absolutely.
You have the panda. I use that example all the time. The panda was only discovered in the last 100 years, but there's legends and lore about these things going back thousands of years. But everybody said the same thing about it, like they do about Bigfoot. Oh, that's not real. That's a legend. So, if a panda can avoid being seen and captured and killed for thousands of years, that's a dumb creature. So if we're talking about a humanoid, mighty hunter with intelligence not being seen for thousands of years, I don't think that's far-fetched at all. Are you a hunter, a hiker, or just an outdoor enthusiast? Well, if you are, you know that good quality gear is hard to come by. And finding all American made, is like finding Bigfoot in the woods. Hence the name of Squatch Survival Gear. Head on over to squatchsurvivalgear.com. Use the code PLP10 for 10% off store-wide.
No, I mean, in technicality, I think, too, the Highland mountain gorilla in Africa wasn't technically seen by Western eyes until the 1930s, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe. It hasn't been that long. It's like the panda.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, they might have known about lowland gorillas, but the Highland gorilla, that was always a legend, right? Oh, there's no giant apes living in this jungle up here in the mountains, right? Sounds kind of familiar to an extent, right? But it's like, And
then the whole woo side, the spiritual side. I mean, I think that if my first paradigm was correct, then it just flows right into the spiritual side too, if you have the Christian paradigm, because if these are Nephilim in nature, they're a hybrid being. And it says in the book of Enoch that these Eliud, these sons of the Watchers or whatever, that when they die, their spirits are not normal. So therefore they have nowhere to go. So they just roam earth to torment mankind. So, I mean, why would they not want to choose a familiar form?
Yeah. Or, the fact that they might just be Eliud, which are the offspring of the Nephilim, right? Yeah. So we're even going farther down the bloodline. And, we do have genetic study that is pretty compelling, even though mainstream science will bash it and smash it and poo-poo all over it. That Sasquatch genome project, I'll tell you what, I've gone through all of it, and you can find it online. Go through it yourself and find somebody that's way smarter than you that's got something to do with DNA, and they're going to look at it and go, oh man, there might be some legs here, right? Because a lot of the technicalities that they're talking about, there was a concerted effort to totally discredit that whole study. And that right there, to me, that's a red flag.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, when you get a whole group of people that are all saying the same thing and attacking the same thing, there's a controlled opposition there.
One of the things I love about that is that a lot of those, a bunch of the samples were completely completely tested blind. They had no idea what they were testing.
Mm-hmm.
And legitimate labs, not just like some lab that Melba Ketchum ran. Nope. They were legitimate labs, like crime labs in Louisiana and stuff. So they had no idea what they were testing. And it came back,
if I remember correctly, they were blown away because they were like, where did you get this? Because it's a hybrid.
It's weird. Like something's
it's got the DNA, the mitochondrial DNA of the mother from the female, but this other chromosome is totally foreign to us. This is a humanoid creature, but it's not human.
Yeah. And I love the fact that the hair is totally different than anything else. And they can't pull mitochondrial DNA from the hair. You can pull that from human hair, but you can't pull it from the Sasquatch hair, or what's allegedly a Sasquatch hair, right? Mm-hmm. And they had, it's amazing. I can't wait to talk to, but you've met him. You have had T-Carp on your show, right? Or you've at least
not yet.
talked to him.
I've spoke with him, but I haven't had him on the show yet.
He's coming on my show soon, and I just can't wait. But, I talked to Harley, and he's talked to T-Carp a bunch. Plus he was on, Biblical Hitmen the other day, like a couple weeks ago. Great interview.
He's going to be at Spiracy Con, so I was wanting to talk to him and interview him in person if I could.
Heck yeah. So And his father, man, he was part of that whole thing, and David Pallades. So I just interviewed Mondo Gonzalez, who's a pretty reputable guy in the high strangeness space, right? He's one of the people at Prophecy Watchers, and he's a former pastor. And well, I guess, are you ever a former pastor? Yeah, I guess you could be, but he's also an archaeologist, and he goes at it from this angle. And he was at Timothy Alberino's event in Bozeman, Montana.
Nephilim Con.
Nephilim Con, is that what's called? NEFCON. That's what it was. And he, which I almost went to, but it didn't work out. And David Pallades got up and gave a presentation on this DNA. And he talked about it on the show. And he's just like, he tells the story just how I just told it. And come on, I get it. We can be skeptical. We need to be skeptical about everything, but there's just mounting evidence of this. And it's phenomenal. It's fascinating to me. So, And then you've been all over Esau and the Amalekites. And I mean, I love that you use the term feral giant, because it makes me understand. So I know, one of the things I know here in upstate New York, we have a decent population we've had two separate populations happen. We've had Russian boars, right, that got out of a game preserve, right? But we also have a population of feral hogs that have gotten away, and they started interbreeding, both of them. Well, when a hog gets out and goes feral, they revert to growing long, wiry hair. Their tusks get bigger, all that stuff. And there's even evidence that humans do the same type of thing to an extent, right? So the idea of the feral giant, it's not that far-fetched to me.
No.
Not in the world we live in, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. And when I found that really kind of blew my mind when I found the hypertrichosis, where there's so many documented cases of kids being born covered in hair from head to toe, like Esau. And you got to think ancient times, they would say, oh, this is a demon child. And they'd kill it or take it out the woods and abandoning it. And you had all these people that were the outcasts of societies, the murderers, the thieves, the liars, the whatevers. They were outcast to live in the wilderness. You got to think of Robin Hood and his band of merry men. And there's so many studies, I can't remember what they call it now, but there's when your body goes through cold weather and you also go into anorexia, that it triggers this feral gene, this hypertrichosis, and you grow hair all over your body as a defense mechanism when you are battling cold weather and you are in starvation mode. So when you go through all the old legends about these wild men and feral giants and stuff like that, it's all the same. They're raiding towns and they're stealing supplies. And women, raping women and stuff like that. So to me, it's like you said, I don't think it's far-fetched to think that some of these were, humans that turned feral, and they're labeled as wild men, Bigfoots.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that's always got me is the legends of the Native Americans that fought. Some of them fought Sasquatch type creatures, but some of them, like the Sitka, right? The tribe of red-haired cannibals in northern, in Nevada. Yeah. In the Paiute oral traditions, right? I mean, it's a pretty compelling story, and it's man. I also look at that as like their proximity to like places like the Grand Canyon, right? because there's some weird stuff going on there too.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, literal cannibal red-haired giant tribes, 6 fingers, 6 toes, the whole thing. And their clash with this, with the Paiute tribe and Lovelock Cave and whatnot. Just amazing story.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother episode.
You know, how the Bible recorded those giant clans that Esau married into. So Esau was already described as a Sasquatch kind of guy, a wild man.
Yeah.
And he marries into these giant clans, and his father-in-law was Seir, which his name translates to mean hairy. So you have this giant race
literally
that's defined as hairy, and you get these two guys breeding, man, you're going to throw some strange pups. And one of the lineages was the Amalekites, whose name means the blood lickers. So you have a race of feral, cannibal giants.
Yeah. I mean, and we hear stories about this all over the Holy Land, right? In and around Mount Hermon, in all those foothills. I mean, I'm not saying I ever saw giants, but I know when I was deployed to Egypt for about a year, right around 2001, 2002. And I remember hearing stories from the Bedouins, and they would tell stories of, there's oral tradition there that they would talk about, like giants living in caves and stuff down in what they would call wadis, you know, in these hills, just barren land, man. And they would, every once in a while, they would have goats go missing, camels go missing, because that's what they do. They roam around they're nomads that roam around the desert in the Sinai, the Sinai desert. And they have these stories of they'll start missing goats and camels. And who knows, but
yeah,
it seems as though every culture has this type of, you know, some sort of story of like hairy, maybe not even hairy, just giants, right? In general. Yeah. So many tribes in the US, so many tribal type people, and, you know, there's so many rabbit holes you can go down with this. This is why I could not just stick with Bigfoot, because then you start talking, you get into the RH negative rabbit hole, you start getting into bloodlines, you start getting into all these things. And it's just like, how can I just focus on one thing? I can't do it.
You can't. There's too many rabbit trails and interconnected webs.
Absolutely. And I just give a lot of credence to the oral tradition of a lot of these tribes, you know, because that's how they've been telling these stories for centuries, right? And it's not like a game of telephone. It's not the same. When you have people that's how they actually tell their history, is oral history, they become very good at it. I'm sure, you know, we embellish and stuff along the way, but, you know.
Yeah. A lot of these tribes and people, they didn't have a written language, or they didn't keep written records. So then it was very important. And you get in those tribes, you have the shamans and different people with different roles. And you had people that was just assigned specifically to remember the legends and the lore and the histories, and to memorize it word for word, because it was so important. And when they got to a certain age and they thought their life was, you know, running dry, they would take a kid or whatever underneath their wing and teach them all the stories, and they just kept passing it on.
Exactly. I mean, there are pictures too, meaning cave paintings and drawings and pictographs and all kinds of stuff of these things. So, you know, who's to say? I guess it comes down to the fact that we don't know anything, right? We come full circle back to we don't know nothing.
Yep, that's the truth, man. That's the most honest answer you can ever give.
Yeah. And as soon as you start thinking you know, better start reading more books.
Yep. Amen. 100%.
Yeah.
Well, Bennett, man, dude, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your stories and stuff. And I'd love to have you back because I know you're a deep dive researcher too. You've done some stuff on the red heifers and some other things, and you actually have a really cool near-death experience that I'd like to dive into with you sometime too, man.
For sure. Absolutely.
Well, just for those maybe that they joined late or maybe was doing laundry or something and missed maybe the beginning of the show, just go ahead and let everybody know your show, websites, and anything that you'd like to plug, man.
Yeah, we've got Broadcasting Seeds Podcast, broadcastingseeds.com, or wherever you find, you're at your leisure, you listen to either audio podcasts or video at YouTube. I try to post on Rumble too, but it's a lot, man. I just, it just, for some reason, it doesn't end up there all the time. So I say Facebook, or not Facebook, YouTube, if you want to see the video part of it. But I have a face for radio, so maybe you should stay on the audio side.
You got a voice for it too, man.
Right. So you'd rather listen to me than watch me. With that too, I also have the magazine Strange Knocks, which is just a fun project to kind of like help people also that want to get more notoriety and more, authorship or whatever, just to share their stories in print form. I remember growing up, and was my deal, was magazines. We had all kinds of magazines, and it's kind of died lately, but we also have a digital version. If you want to get that, you can find that at gotknockers.com and look for Strange Knocks magazine. I'm trying to think of anything else, but that's it, man.
Well, man, thank you once again, dude. I really appreciate it. And these were actually news stories for me, guys. I heard one of them about the Broken Bridge land. Yeah. He told me a little bit about that at the conference. So I was on the journey with you guys too. A lot of these I hadn't heard yet. So that's why there's
more from Broken Bridge too. I just, we'll be here all night.
Yeah.
So,
well, brother, man, I really appreciate it, man. I love what you do. Keep doing what you're doing. And you're a great dude. You're a great friend. I'm so glad that we've met and got to hang out and meet in person, man.
Same to you, man. I appreciate you and all the things that you do.
Well, guys, be sure to check out Bennett's stuff, and I'll get with him and get his links and stuff, and I'll be sure to try to have those down in the description for you. That way you got a easy one-click solution. Well, guys, if this conversation didn't show you anything at all, I hope it shows you that the difference between the known and the unknown is the journey. So, good journey, guys.